Illuminate Teens. We're going to be jumping into the rebellion of God's people. This is coming from Numbers 13 and 14. So if you want to check that out, we're going to be reading some verses from there very, very soon. But the doctrine that we're going to be talking about is sin as rebellion. Sin is a rebellion against God. It is being in opposition to Him, and there's no easy way about it. There's no watering it down. Sin is direct rebellion against God. And fear as a result of not trusting in God is sin, okay? We can't excuse that. And so as we get into this, rebellion against God is rooted in failing to trust God. Failing to trust God. And failing to trust that He's enough. Failing to trust that He can satisfy. Failing to trust in His promises. Whatever that might be. And you know, as we get into this, life is tough. There's complications. There's things that go on. Family situations, friendship situations, job situations, whatever that might be. And we have decisions that we have to make every single day. And these decisions can be short-term and not really have a whole lot of effect down the road. But then others have a huge effect down the road. Maybe it starts creating habits that you really don't want to get into. But every day is decision making. You can't just coast. And if you're coasting right now, just because there's some virus going on, that is actually failure to be satisfied with God and what He has. And there's still a plan. There's still things to be done in this time. We can't just coast. So binge watching Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus, whatever it might be, consistently on social media, and that's all that your life is, or just sleeping all the time, being apathetic. This is not what God made us to be, to do. And as Christians especially, please rise up and do what God's called you to do. And God has called these people, the Israelites, to go into the promised land. He's already given it to them. They just got to go in and follow what God's told them to do. Now, have you ever had a tough decision to make? I mean, think about that right now. Think about the decision. You had to trust someone. How did that decision help or hinder you in the long run or even in the short run? How are your decisions affecting you? Even right now, maybe something that's right now that you are facing. How is it going to affect you? What's the pros, what's the cons? Do you have to trust somebody with it? Maybe it's just trusting your pastor. Maybe it's just trusting your parents. Maybe it's trusting a few friends, whatever that might be. Think about it this way. There was a story about a fire that had happened in New York. And the fire department could not get down this road because it was too narrow for their truck. So they couldn't get the ladder in to help this girl who was several stories up while this fire was going on. So they ended up creating a net, and they're calling with the horn, the megaphone, and saying, hey, jump, jump. Well, the problem is she was blind. So she couldn't see, she couldn't trust. She didn't know who these people were. Why would she jump? What is she jumping into? All of a sudden her dad shows up and gets a hold of the megaphone and says jump, and she had heard that voice before. She knew that voice. She trusted that voice. So she jumped. She survived. What about us? Do we know God well enough to just trust? To jump? Whenever we need to jump? To follow when He says to follow? And this is where the Israelites, have you ever had to trust in God or someone like this certain situation? I know circumstances are a little bit different, but you just think about it. The promised land is just a few steps away, and the Israelites failed to trust God again. He's proved Himself over and over and over. This is a promise to them. All they got to do is go in. That's it. And so in Numbers 13 it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, and this is verse 1 and 2, send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. So he says, go ahead and pick somebody out from each tribe. And I want you to send them in and scout out the land. This land is yours. I've already given it to you. Just go in and scout. So they did that. And God's given them plenty of reasons to trust them. Plenty of ways that they can remember God's faithfulness over time. What helps you remember God's faithfulness in times of trouble, in times of doubt? What helps you? What reminds you that God is faithful? This is what they needed right now. But, the spies went in. They were there for 40 days. They came out. They confirmed all that God had stated about the land is flowing with milk and honey. They had chopped off this cluster of grapes that was so large they had to have 2 guys in order to carry this thing on a pole. I mean, it was awesome. And yet, those spies turned around and said, the cities are too fortified, there's too many people. In fact, we look like grasshoppers compared to them. Is that a little exaggerated? Yeah. That's what happens when we fear. We exaggerate. When we're afraid, we exaggerate issues. And that's exactly what they're doing here. But Caleb and Joshua, there were 2 of the spies. There was 12 of them. Caleb and Joshua, they said, let's do this. Let's go in. Caleb urged the people. Caleb and Joshua realized that they weren't mighty. It wasn't like they were some trained army, that they were just this extravagant empire. They were just a group of people that were slaves not too long before this. But yet Caleb and Joshua understood that their weakness is what it wasn't defining for them. God's mighty strength is what defined them. And they said, let's take it. God's given it to us. Let's take it. So how's this help you face some what seems to be impossible situations in your life? These 2 are ready to go. But the other ones, not so much. Numbers 14, 1-4, it says, and all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried. Why? They were fearful. They're fearful. And the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God that we had died in the wilderness? Here it is. Here we're going to die again. They're complaining to their leaders. God, please, you're going to make us die out here? And wherefore has the Lord brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? Let's go back to Egypt where we're slaves. Really? What does fear do? Exaggerates the issue. There's no reasoning here. And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return into Egypt. So let's get another leader. Let's return. You know what? Our actions reveal what's already in our hearts. And right then, they did not believe. They didn't believe that God was enough. And based on that very fact, God rewarded Caleb and Joshua with being able to go in the land right then. But then made the Israelites who complained wander for 40 years in the wilderness. Not one of them who complained would see the promised land. They would only be able to think about it, imagine it. They wouldn't be able to see it. And they died in the wilderness. Teens, trust that God is going to get you through what He's called you to do. He will equip you to manage the feats that are ahead of you, that He's having you accomplish for His name, for His glory, not ours. If it was us, if it was all about us, we'd have to worry about our might and our strength and all of who we are at that point. We just need to be concerned about what God is and just take steps forward. Trust in God. You know, what's our Christ connection? It's the very fact that our rebellion is the sin that put Jesus on the cross. But we don't have to stay there. If we trust in him, have faith in him, that his salvation is true, it is what he says it is, trust in him, he can relieve us of that, and our promised land will be heaven. Christ stepped into our place, the perfect person, Jesus Christ, stepped in our place, went on as a sacrifice for our rebellion, and offers us new life in him. Have you trusted in him? He's got enough for you. He is. You've just got to figure that out for yourself. So, when has fear kept you from God's plan? Maybe it's just from following him right now. From saying, yes, God, I'll trust in you. Maybe that fear of what people are going to say, what people might do, is keeping you from enjoying God. Stop giving into your fear, teens. Let God show himself abundant to you. Hope you're having a great day, and enjoy Casual Friday. And if it's not Friday for you, whatever day it is, please enjoy it. It's sunny outside here. Embrace the gifts of God. We'll talk to you later.